You actually closed $4 million in your first 13 months at an IT services company. Now, you talk about a magic 6-word question that really transitions the conversation.
Here's our 6-word phrase. What happens if...
Welcome to the More Business Podcast. I'm your host, Raj Kara. Jonathan Pierce is one of the top sales executives in the United States. He closes millions of dollars in sales every single year, and there's a specific way he does it. And today, he will reveal exactly that process, plus loads of questions that you can embed into your sales discovery conversations so that you can close more business too. Hey, welcome back, Jonathan. I'm excited to have you back on the podcast because our last conversations about sales discussions, sales calls have really proven very valuable for a lot of the people that tuned in. And by the way, if you're just tuning in for the first time, look at the links inside the description. I'll have them posted to Jonathan's previous dialogues, which we'll go over step by step how to close more sales. Today, we're going to be talking about nailing your discovery calls in tech sales. And we're also going to talk about how to compete against AI because AI is going after SDR jobs, AE jobs. And so there are things that you can do to actually stop that from happening, make sure that you can actually close more sales. So we're going to be focusing on the discovery call today. Jonathan, you ready to get started?
I'm so excited to help the SDRs, the AEs, and all of the sales engineers out there with this new method I've got. It's called the PTV method. Thanks for having me on the call today, Raj.
Very excited. So the PTV stands for pain. Let me have you do it instead of me telling you. Why don't you say, what is the PTV method? And then let's talk about how it's different than some of the other techniques like the Challenger sale, MEDDIC, some of the other things that people have heard about.
Yeah, go ahead. What does MEDDIC stand for?
You tell me, man. I've forgotten the term. I know it's MEDDIC, right? And then I get lost in what each of those things are.
And quite frankly, I've been on over 3,000 discovery calls from major accounts, enterprise, SMB, mid-market. No one can remember what MEDDIC means. Let's simplify something to its core. So that's what I've done with PTV. The P stands for pain. T stands for transformation, and V stands for values. We can remember pain, transformation, value, right? Everybody has pain and money follows pain. So that's why I focus the first step of every discovery call should be, let's talk about pain, because there's going to be sales out there that are going to be gain situations. Hey, we're going to improve something. Sell me this pen. Hey, you have a pen already? I'm going to give you a better one. The money follows the pain. I can more easily sell a pen to someone who has no pen. So that's the idea of pain first. And again, getting lost in MEDDIC, I don't know what all the symbols stand for. So we know we're trying to find pain. That is super easy actually for AEs to do. Like, all I need to do is find pain for these people.
Yeah. Now, just to put context on this, you actually closed $4 million in your first 13 months at an IT services company by using this method. So this isn't just hokey pokey, oh, you can try this and see if it works. This actually works. $4 million in just over a year. Pretty good, man. Pretty impressive.
My boss came in and said, here's what we're going to do on a discovery call. The first slide is, here's our company. Here's where we started. Second slide, here's all the products we sell. Third, here's all the customers we have. 4, what product would you like to buy? That's where I started in that $4 million year. And I was like, no one cares until I get to the 4th slide where I'm educating them on the changes in the market. Beyond our company history, beyond the products we sell, beyond our customers, the 4th slide where we're educating them on, hey, have you heard about zero trust? So that's some of that Challenger method. So I said, let's delete slide 1, 2, and 3. And let's just start with
people tune out. They tune out. I know I've been on these types of calls. I know exactly what you're talking about when the sales rep is pitching me. And the first thing I see is all about their company, all the logos that I don't care. Tell me what you can do for me.
Yeah.
We all have short timelines, short attention spans. I've got meetings coming up in 30 minutes. The last thing I want to do is hear about how great you are. And
because a million companies are knocking on their door. They ain't got time for it either. They want you to get right to something that's valuable for them. So in the PTV method, what is your pain, right? What brought you to this call? We're already focused on them and you're on their side. So that's what makes this method super simple.
Let's break it down. So this whole podcast is about just acing your discovery calls. Yeah. And so first thing you do, you're on that discovery call. How do you open that conversation?
Yeah, we can talk about anything. I can see hey, I like that red colored background. We can chat. And some people think chit chat is bad, but yeah, you can build a little rapport. Hey, Raj, should we focus on the agenda now? Do you want to shift to the agenda? I appreciate the banter, but let's shift to the agenda. Today, I just wanted to focus on you, what brought you to the call. What are some pain points? What are some things that you were hoping maybe that you heard about my SDR talking about that we do? What are some things you'd like to accomplish this year? And let's really focus in on that. You are going to have people that have a little bit defense, so they want to maybe hear more of what you say. 80-20 rule. 80% of people are going to go, here's what brought me to the call, Jonathan. I'm focused on this project and this project, right? So there's your bait. Take it.
I, I love it because right now you've already started to get them to interact. It's not like they're sitting back and just listening to you talk. You've very quickly just started to get them to be part of that entire dialogue. And the less you're talking, the more they're talking.
Right.
Yeah.
So here in the beginning, we can peel down to the center of that oyster, peel back the onion and go, well, so what is it about those projects that you guys haven't done anything about before, right? Why have you not done it? Is it lack of people, lack of funding? What else is going on within your org? Because I always use this phrase. I talk to a lot of orgs. Everybody has a different scenario that's holding them back. Why have you guys not done these things that you want to do? And we can use some Chris Voss techniques, right? And we can package all these different methods together, the Challenger sales method, the MEDDIC to understand. But here we are just at pain. Why have you guys not done anything about this pain? Oh, it's a nice to have. Okay, then for us as AEs, we're listening and going, okay, this is a gain sell, right? Now let me try to, I'll throw those away. I don't have time for those. So I actually go for the pain. And if someone says, I have a pen, this pen's fine, it's not in the budget to buy a new pen. Great. I appreciate you calling. There are some other things that if people are thinking ahead, they want to improve about their thing. I'll try to do a Challenger method, educate them on different threats in the industry that my tech company may be able to solve. But for that one particular thing, move on.
It's very interesting that you say this, that you just take the gain idea and you toss that out. And I think it's really important. A friend of mine who runs a large company always says, people will pay you for the aspirin more than they will for a dessert because they need to get rid of the headache right away. And the dessert is always a nice to have. And that's how we view gain. If someone's out there, if you had a deal where you could get 4 tires on your car for $500, which is a great price, you'd be like, okay, yeah, great. But if somebody called you and said, there's somebody out there slashing your tires right now, you would get out of your seat and run to the car. That is the difference between gain and pain.
Yes. So anyone in the SMB all the way to enterprise, don't lose focus of the root of why your buyer is buying because they're ghosting you for gain. Oh, I'm 7 conversations in. Bro, you didn't establish the rank of this pain and you're not solving a pain. That's why they're ghosting you. That's why you get all the way to the end and they're not signing.
Are there more questions that you recommend? You share some great nuggets of questions you can ask to start getting someone to talk about the pain. What are some of the other questions that you use to extract the pain out of your prospect?
Yeah, again, I use that method where it's the crowdsource intelligence. I share a story. Hey, I solved a solution. I solved a pain point for an airport or a bank or insurance company last week. And it just gets them thinking and talking. They were concerned about the IT guy who'd been there for 30 years, who's about to retire, picking up USB devices at the airport and going and plugging them in his computer to see what's on there. And that was a pain point for them. They had some kind of malware from that, and they wanted something like a solution we sell like CrowdStrike that can control USB. So we don't get far too off in the weeds, but try to go a story that they can relate to and go, oh yeah, I've got Sally keeps clicking emails. We have an email solution like abnormal security. Not trying to plug these companies, but it would be something I sell. And I would share a story where someone bought that from me for a certain pain point. So then it gets their head thinking, okay, I trust Jonathan. Challenger sales method. He's educating me. He's sharing a story. He's a useful person already to other organizations. I'm going to share some pain points now that he's built a bridge for me to learn a little bit about him. So you got to set up some framework to get the ball rolling in pain.
Are you using any slides in your presentation at this point, or is this still just a dialogue without even throwing up a slide on your Zoom?
It can all be a dialogue. You can close deals on pain with 0 slides. And I've done it, and I've closed $500,000 deals with no slides, never meeting them in person. The one slide that is the thing that always engages people is educating them on something different they've never seen before. So if I have one slide, it's going to point to that story where I solved something for someone. I don't have any company slides, any product slides, nothing, because the product evaluation comes in the V section, and you book the demo, right? You sell the value to book the demo. We're not here to show a product. We're here to say, we've got to find pain. We got to discover your pain and figure out where it ranks. So
yeah. Let's go now to your next part, which is the transition magic. Now, you talk about a magic 6-word question that really transitions the conversation towards quantifying what the prospect's challenges are. So share that.
Yeah. If we have the pain, we got 1 or 2 pain points, right? Let's talk about the first one, Raj. Like you mentioned, hey, you've got to solve this because you're limited on people. You need a sim tool that, let's say, gives you one pane of glass to look at. What happens, right? Here's our 6-word phrase. What happens if you do nothing?
I love that. I've used that. It is a great phrase. Man, that really is a magic phrase. What happens if you do nothing?
And I was speaking with the Pentagon. I was training an AE recently, and the person on the other side, being at the Pentagon, had a ton to say and a lot of chat. And how do you reel them in? He mentioned a couple pain points. I use keywords too. I didn't mention these in the pain, but anchors and gears, right? Hey, what I'm saying might get your gears spinning. Let me know what excites you the most. Or we talk about a lot of things. Can we anchor our conversation around this pain point right here? And then if they agree to that, yeah, that's important. Then I drop that magic phrase. Okay, Raj, what happens if you do nothing about pain point number 1? And that gentleman, and I stopped talking and I listened to what they'll let that sink in. And he goes, we're going to have to hire 3 more people. And I just say, how much does that cost? You're looking at, they're a GS-10 in the federal space. That's, 70,000 a year. Okay, that's 210,000. How many people are working on it right now? I've got 2 people working on it. So you got 5 people at 70K. That's 350K. Now we have some transformation that he's just answered. If you could have a solution, obviously that comes in at a lower cost, but also frees those 5 people up to do other things. Is that of value to your organization? Do you think that's something you'd want to solve this year? Now we're into the value. And if they say yes, great. Let's not look at the products here. Let's go book a demo with my sales engineer and let's focus on solving that for you and talk about only how the software solves that pain.
That's so fascinating because you took what they weren't even sure they needed to buy anything. Maybe they hadn't even budgeted for something, but they're thinking about budget differently, products versus people. And oftentimes people get that, executives mix that up. But we've got people budget, but we don't have product budget. They don't realize how much you can save in the people budget. So your overall spend becomes dramatically lower and your efficiency becomes much higher.
And I've been on over 3,000 discovery calls, right? And I've started from let me share it the wrong way. Let me talk about my company. Now, when you're talking about your pain, you're only getting deals in your pipeline that have pain, and money follows the pain. So that's how I was able to close over right around, it was like 3.96 million, call it 4 million in less than 13 months, made that MSP the number 1 fastest growing MSP on the Inc. 5000 list that year. And then I took my first consulting client back in September. I met with them and I consulted every position in the org to say, hey, SDR, here's how you get someone to a discovery call with pain. AE, here's how you do the PTV. Here's how you come alongside the AE and only share the features that are relevant to that pain. And they closed a $4 million deal in less than 4 months based on the PTV methods. Like you said, the proof is in the pudding, and I've honed it. I've consulted and used it. Absolutely. It's so effective.
I like the way you transition. You go after the pain, discard the gain because they won't pay right away for gain, but they want to get rid of the pain. And so once you figure that out, then you start to transition. What happens if you do nothing? And the really interesting part about that phrase is it tells you if this is really a pain point problem for them. Because if it's nothing really big happens, then you know that you really haven't hit on the pain point yet. And that's
just
going to be a
makes it,
struggle to sell.
yeah. And the 7 habits of successful people, one was envisioning yourself in a room outside of yourself, looking at yourself. So that phrase, what happens if you do nothing? They actually go to a part of their brain and they start visualizing themselves doing nothing about it. And it's like the rock in the shoe. Okay, they're going to judge, oh, is that rock like literally going to wear out my foot and I'm going to need
Mm,
surgery? I'll do something now. Is it a this
yeah.
year thing? And it just clears the air. It gets
Yeah.
all the fog out of their brain and goes, we're doing something about it this year. And we move forward to a demo with that Pentagon client.
Let's move to the third part now, value. So let's talk about how you transition to understanding, getting them to start really like thinking and then providing the value. What's the words that you use to make that flow in your discovery call?
As we've said, what happens if you do nothing and they give you whatever they give you? I've got to hire this many people or that many people. So it sounds like this is something that really could get across the line this year, right? And we start thinking of the MEDDIC. MEDDIC really comes into value, all the steps and the decision process, the paper process, who's the buyer, the decision criteria, all that comes into value. So we are enhancing the Challenger sales method to find the pain. We're enhancing MEDDIC to deliver the value in the buying process by finding pain and understanding this is important. So it all fits together, but we've simplified it in a structure that anybody could come in. An SDR can be an AE. If they just do PTV, they could be an AE overnight. I've got to find the pain, got to understand what they're buying and the value. So this customer wants to not hire 3 people. He wants to tackle that. Now, how are we going to get this across the line? Who would need to be involved in it? What other products would you look at? All the MEDDIC things. I have to Google it to remember them all. But
Yeah.
imagine you get onto a call and you haven't found pain and you haven't found if it's important and you just start doing MEDDIC. Well, here's my company. Here's the products we sell. Who's going to be a buyer for any of these?
It's too much to remember on a call, especially these discovery calls are designed to be very interactive. So you understand what the you're getting the customer to talk more than you're talking. If you're doing all the talking in a discovery call, you're doing it all wrong. And so I like the way that you transition very quickly. So you have that transition question, they're starting to think about it, and boom, you add the value almost instantaneously. What if I could? And then would that be of value to you? Would that make sense to you? Would that save you money? And so you're really going right to that pain point pretty quickly.
Yeah. Yeah. It sounds like then this is something we could spend some time on and it'll be some value to have software to transition these people. I have to hire all these people and I would go and book the demo call next. I would jump right to it and then understand we want to make sure this is something you can buy. Help me understand the lay of the land. And I go back a step and I go, I worked with all different companies of different sizes. Everybody's path to procurement is different. Share with me what is unique about your path. So we're going to book this demo call. Who needs to be on it? What is your expectation? What's your time frame?
So many nuggets of questions right here. If you are an AE, if you are an SDR, and you're listening to Jonathan rattle off his list of questions, take notes, rewind this podcast, and listen to it again till you got those down. You can literally use that as your playbook to start getting more discovery calls to go farther in the process to the demo stage and then to eventual sales. As you've seen, he's closed $4 million in 13 months using this process. Could you share some additional success stories, Jonathan, about how this has actually worked for you?
I generated over $6 million this year alone. It was a go-to market year for the company I'm at now in pipe, $6 million in pipe. In the federal space, there's a longer procurement cycle.
And how long did it take you to generate $6 million in pipeline?
60 days.
60 days.
60 days.
Holy cow.
I ended last week. I ended this quarter with $6.3 million in pipeline. And I'm talking like we're in stage 3, 4, 5, negotiating. I've got an enterprise deal that we're negotiating with 10,300 users. But I focused very early on the deals that had pain. The AEs that didn't focus on pain, the next person only has 900K. So understanding if I'm PTV in this, I'm not wasting time on the people who wouldn't buy, period. Money follows pain. So we can say it till we're blue in the face. Everybody on the call is, okay, Jonathan, I get it now. But guess what? I'm also on the forefront of making sure that SDRs and AEs are not replaced by AI.
Yeah.
because industries that can will.
Let's talk about that for a minute because we are seeing so many tools. I've seen several demos of tools that aren't yet out in the market. Colleagues of mine are building them that are designed to minimize the need for or even completely replace a sales development rep, the person that's trying to schedule these discovery calls. So AI is going after those jobs. It's going after the account executives as well. What are you seeing? How do you prevent that from happening to your job? How do you make yourself indispensable?
I think it's going to be making sure that you are well versed in providing a simplified structure like PTV as your framework in your mind of you're going to spend time at companies. You want to be the most valuable AE and SDR by focusing on where the money is, because that's why you were hired. You were hired to bring in deals, focus on the pain first. And your AI counterparts are built on language models of cold calls, hundreds of thousands of cold calls, thousands and thousands of discovery calls, but none of them are using the PTV method yet. So if you understand that, you have a leg up right now. If you just focus on pain, what happens if they do nothing? And then let's focus on that customer. Let's try to do something about that this year, since that's a pain point for you. That's the core. That's the smallest form. I liken it to, and not saying something grandiose here, but imagine Albert Einstein for decades trying to figure out the theory of relativity. And finally he comes up with E equals MC squared. How easy is that formula? Everybody remembered it. It
Mhm,
blew up across the world. E equals MC squared. PTV. It's the
mhm.
easiest way to think about your discovery calls. Do that, and you're going to have a leg up on AI because they're all built on other conversations that are lengthy and not as simplified.
Pain, transition, and value, such a straightforward formula. And you've heard lots of different ways to use questions to get your prospect that's on that discovery call with you to really open up about revealing what their pain points are. And some of the key ones that you've probably heard and used as a sales executive. Help me understand, tell me more about things like that. Very key. Share with me. And I like that as part of the close, if you will, you're actually creating these mini closes along the way. It's not like you're just doing this big presentation and then at the very end saying, "So what do you think?" That's just, it's, oh my gosh, that's like the shortest path to just losing a deal. You're actually getting people to share along the way. So they are invested in that dialogue with you to make sure that they actually resolve their pain points. You really shine a light on it, make it like a spotlight on their pain points.
Yeah. And again, I've joined orgs where the sales engineer, we got off our first, product demo together. And I said, we did a prep call and I said, here's their pain. I only want you to address the features that do that. And PTV too is about checking in with the customer, right? So if you share a pain point feature from the product, how do you guys see that solving it? Does that solve it? So every feature you sell, you don't go through 5 pages of your product without asking them. I want to share
Mhm.
this one aspect of our product and how it can solve that pain that Jonathan uncovered for you. Here it
Yeah.
is. How do you guys see that solving it? What are your thoughts? Or we always need to be engaging instead of saying a lot and then going, I showed 5 things to you. So the
Yeah.
sales engineers on the call, right? Share that one product feature and then let the AE ask or you ask, how do you see that solving it? And the SE hopped off theirs. Man, I've been doing demos for 4 years and God, I wish I knew that before. So
Mm.
share things.
Share, pause,
Yeah.
share, pause, and the pauses, you've really gotta get more out. Let me ask you this one question because people will struggle with this too, is what if the person you're talking to is not ready, even though you've talked about sales points, even though you've pain points, you've talked about that, you've done the transition, you've shown the value, they see the value, you're trying to go right for the follow-up meeting, the demo, whatever the next step is. What if they hesitate and they're not ready and they say something like, let me think about it and then I'll get back to you. What do you say to something like that?
Here's a good part of it. When you're on the path of this pain first and anchoring conversations for something they care about, you're going to see that less and less. If you happen to be just desperate to get somebody right moved along because you're not really committed to just focusing on pain and only talking about pain points, maybe you're a AE that's a little eager going, I admit, I don't really have pain, but I wish I could gain. Here's a gain sell. You're going to get
Mm,
that phrase right there. So then you can stop and say, it sounds like this really is a nice to have for you, right? Because you got to realize that if you're focused on pain, they are going to find the money and they're going to get this deal for you. So you've got to realize that you were overzealous and this really wasn't a pain. This was a gain. It's that simple. So you won't.
And so when you say that, so that's a clever way of pivoting that conversation. It sounds like this is a nice to have for you. Do you say anything else after that?
No, I just want their feedback. Also, it sounds like maybe we mislabeled this as a nice to have instead of a pain point. You can say, am I wrong? Did I miss the mark? Am I right here?
Yeah.
Is that accurate? All those things. Yeah.
And then if they say, yeah, and then what do? You're like, hey, thanks for your time.
Yeah. If there isn't anything else here, because I've done 3,000 discovery calls, I've never seen a deal close when it's a gain situation. When I'm having to go hop in Excel and create an ROI calculator just for this company, I've closed 0 of those deals. So it sounds like this is maybe a 2025 play for you. Am I right? Yeah. I don't know how I'd get this across the line. You can go, hey, Raj, your boss. Even though it creates some pain, there's other big pain points, and maybe my company doesn't solve those. Is he just going to smack you in the face or on the hand if you go share some quote from me or talking about me? They know they don't want to get smacked. They're going to tell you. And I say, listen, I'm happy to reach out if we start selling some product to capture and solve the pain points you may not be talking to me about. But I'll just reach out to you next year because I don't waste time on the wrong people.
Jonathan, I love this because you got to be able to say no. You got to know that, hey, this fish is not one you're going to be able to reel in, and you move on. Because if you're focusing on the ones that actually have the pain, much higher likelihood of actually selling them the aspirin. So, cloudsalescoach.com. Is that how people can reach you?
They can find me there. I also bought ptvmethod.com, but yes, I own Cloud Sales Coach. I consult businesses from top to bottom, CEOs, marketing directors, director of sales, AEs, SEs, SDR, BDRs to take a simplified approach to closing deals faster than ever before. They can find me at that website, cloudsalescoach.com.
And I know Jonathan's techniques work because someone watched one of our prior recordings, prior podcast that we did together, reached out to you, and next thing they're actually closing more business like that. So I know your stuff works. Jonathan, thank you so much for being on the podcast today. And I hope everybody who's listening, who's an SDR or an account executive, follow some of these steps and you're going to be able to close so many more sales that will improve your discovery calls. Jonathan, thank you.
Thank you. They're going to close morebusiness.com. I approve.
Go to morebusiness.com for more stuff from me. All right. And subscribe to this podcast. I think you'll enjoy a lot of the future topics we've got. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.